Okay, so I need to talk about something that's literally eating you alive. And you might not even realize how deep it goes. Mom guilt. The guilt that wakes you up at 3 a.m., that makes you second guess every single decision you make. The guilt that makes you apologize to your kids for things that aren't even your fault. And what I've noticed after coaching hundreds of single moms is that guilt doesn't just make you feel bad, but it's actually destroying your ability to heal, to move forward, to be the mom your kids actually need. So, in the next 20 minutes or so, I'm going to walk you through the 7 specific things you need to stop feeling guilty about, starting today. And I'm not just going to tell you, just stop feeling guilty and that type of vague advice that never works. I'm going to show you why these guilt patterns exist, how they're specifically hurting you as a single mom, and the exact mindset shift you need to make to break free from each one of them. So, if you've been carrying shame about your divorce, about working too much, about not being enough, this one's for you, because by the end of this video, you're not just going to feel lighter, happier, and released, but also understanding the mindset shifts, tools, and strategies I'm about to tell you will change your life on the long term. Ready? Let's get into it. So first thing, let me tell you about one of my clients, Jessica, that I worked with about 7 months ago. Jessica came to one of my coaching sessions absolutely convinced she had ruined her kids' lives. Her marriage ended 2 years ago, and she was still apologizing to her kids almost daily. "I'm sorry we're not a normal family anymore. I'm sorry I can't give you everything you had before. I'm sorry Daddy doesn't live here." And one day, her 8-year-old daughter looked at her and said, "Mom, why do you say sorry so much? You didn't do anything wrong." Out of the mouths of babes, right? But here's the thing. Jessica isn't alone in this. In fact, I'd say about 90% of the single moms I work with are drowning in guilt. And it makes sense because society has basically trained us to feel guilty about everything. You work too much? Bad mom. You stay home? You're not providing enough. You're dating? How dare you focus on yourself? You're not dating? Well, you're going to die alone and your kids will have no model for healthy relationships. It's a no-win situation. And here's what most people don't understand about guilt. Guilt is not actually a useful emotion most of the time. Real guilt, healthy guilt, is supposed to tell you when you've done something wrong so you can fix it and make amends. But mom guilt, especially single mom guilt, that's not real guilt. That's shame dressed up as guilt. It's you carrying responsibility for things that either aren't your fault or aren't actually problems. And the worst part is, this guilt is keeping you stuck. Because when you're spending all your energy feeling bad about the past or beating yourself up about your circumstances, you have no energy left to actually build the future. You're so busy apologizing for existing that you forget you're allowed to thrive. So, let me be really clear about something before we get into the 7 things. Look, you are not a bad mom because your family structure changed. You are not failing because you can't do everything perfectly. And you are not hurting your kids by being single mom. Okay, now let's break down exactly what you need to stop feeling guilty about. Okay, number 1, and this is the big one, is that you need to stop feeling guilty about the divorce or the breakup or the separation or however your relationship ended. And I already know what you're thinking. "But Elisa, I chose this. I'm the one who left." Or, "I didn't see the signs. I should have known better." Or, "My kids didn't ask for this." Let me ask you something. How long are you planning to punish yourself for either leaving a situation that wasn't working or for not being psychic enough to predict the future? Because that's what you're doing. You're punishing yourself for being human. And here's the truth that nobody tells you. Staying in a broken relationship would have hurt your kids more than leaving it. Kids don't need two parents under one roof. They need emotionally healthy parents who model what self respect looks like. And sometimes that means those parents aren't together. I had a client once who stayed in a dead marriage for 7 years for the kids. And you know what her teenage daughter told her after the divorce? She told her that she is so glad she finally did this. She told her it was exhausting watching her pretend everything was fine. Your kids can feel it when you're unhappy. They can feel it when there's tension. They can feel it when you're sacrificing yourself to maintain an image. And that's not protecting them. That's teaching them that their worth is tied to keeping other people comfortable. So, here's the mindset shift. Instead of thinking that you ruined your kids' lives by getting divorced, think that you showed your kids that it's okay to leave situations that don't serve you and that you modeled courage and self-respect. Because that's actually what you did. Whether you're the one who left or the one who got left, you survived something really hard and you're still here showing up for your kids every single day. That's not something to feel guilty about. That's something to be proud of. Now, as a quick, actionable step to reinforce that belief, I want you to write down one way your kids' lives are actually better because of the separation. Maybe there's less fighting in the house now. Maybe you're more present because you're not emotionally drained. Maybe they're learning resilience. Write it down. Keep it somewhere you can see it when the guilt creeps back in. Now, number 2 is to stop feeling guilty about your work situation, whether you're working too much or not working enough or whatever story you're telling yourself. This one drives me crazy because you literally cannot win. If you work full-time to provide for your kids, people act like you're neglecting them. If you work part-time or stay home, people act like you're not ambitious enough or you're failing to provide. It's just ridiculous. Here's what I see all the time. Single moms who are working really, really hard to keep a roof over their kids' heads are crying themselves to sleep because they missed the school play, or they had to work late again, or their kids said, "You're never home." And look, I get it. That stings. But let's reframe this for a second and change your entire perspective around it. Look, you're not working because you don't love them. You're working because you do love them. You're making sure they have food and clothes and a home and stability. That's not selfish. That's literally the opposite of selfish. And here's something I learned from one of my mentors that changed everything for me. Your kids aren't just watching what you do with them, they're watching what you do with your life. They're learning their work ethic from you. They're learning that women can provide for themselves. They're learning resilience and independence. One of my clients was drowning in guilt because she worked long hours as a nurse. Her ex was constantly throwing it in her face, saying she chose her career over the kids. But you know what? Her daughter just entered medical school, and she said watching her mom work so hard inspired her entire career path. So yeah, maybe you miss some stuff sometimes. That's reality. But you're also showing your kids what a strong woman looks like, and that matters. So instead of saying that you're a bad mom because you work so much, shift your perspective to thinking that you're teaching your kids the value of hard work and providing for the family and the ones you love. And if you're on the other side, if you're staying home or working part-time and feeling guilty about not contributing enough financially, please stop. Being present for your kids has value. Raising them yourself instead of outsourcing it has value. Just understand that if you're doing what works for your family, you don't owe anyone an explanation. So next time your kid complains about you working instead of apologizing, try telling him this. Look, my love, I know you wish I was home more, and I wish that too sometimes. But I work hard so we can have what we need, and I'm really proud of that. And I'm really proud of you for being so understanding. Send messages that reflect pride from you, not shame. Now, number 3, and this is a big one, is to stop feeling guilty about not being able to give your kids everything they want, or everything they had before, or everything their friends have. This guilt is so common, it's almost universal among single moms. You're going from 2 incomes to 1. Money is tight. You can't afford the expensive birthday parties, or the vacations, or the designer shoes, or whatever it is. And you feel like you're failing them. But here's what I need you to understand. Your kids don't need stuff. They need you. I know that sounds like a cliche, but I'm serious. There's actual research on this. Kids who grow up with less material wealth, but strong emotional connections, end up more resilient, more grateful, and honestly happier than kids who get everything handed to them. One of my favorite stories about this is that I had a client who was spiraling because she couldn't afford to send her son to the expensive summer camp all his friends were going to. She felt like the worst mom in the world. So instead, she signed him up for the free program at the local rec center, and they spent the money she saved on a weekend camping trip, just the two of them. And you know what happened next? For months later, her son talked about the camping trip with his mom and how great and amazing it was, and never talked about that expensive summer camp with his friends and why he missed it. Because that's what kids actually remember: the presence, the connection, the experiences with you. That's the first point. The second point is, who told you that teaching your kids they can't have everything they want is a bad parenting? You're raising them to understand the value of money, to be grateful for what they have, not to feel entitled, and those are one of the most important life skills they need. I grew up with a single mom who couldn't afford a lot. And yeah, sometimes I felt left out. But now, as an adult, I'm so grateful for what that taught me. I learned to work for what I wanted. I learned creativity and how to make fun out of nothing. I learned that my worth wasn't tied to what I owned. Now, to recap all of that, I want you to change your thinking about not affording everything your kids want, and instead of thinking that you're failing your kids because you can't give them enough, try thinking that you're teaching them resilience, gratitude, and the difference between wants and needs. And to make it up to them, you can start new traditions that cost nothing, like movie night every Friday with homemade popcorn, Sunday morning pancakes, a walk to the park every Saturday. Show your kids that the best things in life aren't bought, they're built through time together. And when your kid says, "But Emma's parents got her the new iPhone," you get to say, "That's nice for Emma. We have different priorities in our family." And that way you show no apology or no guilt, but just rules that works for your family. Now, let's talk about number 4. And it's to stop feeling guilty about taking time for yourself. Oh my God, this one makes me want to scream because I see so many single moms who haven't done anything for themselves in years because they think that makes them selfish. Maybe you're exhausted. Maybe you're tushed out. Maybe you're mentally drained, but you won't take a break because the kids need you, or because you don't have anyone to watch them, or thinking that what kind of mom chooses herself over her kids? You cannot pour from an empty cup. And that's not just some Instagram quote. That's neuroscience. Your nervous system needs rest. Your body needs rest. Your brain needs rest. And when you don't give yourself that, you start running on stress hormones and cortisol, and you become a version of yourself that you don't even like yourself. I've seen this many, many times. A lot of moms come to me completely burned out, snapping at her kids all the time, crying every night, feeling like failures. And when I ask them when the last time she did something themselves was, they can't even remember. So I always tell them to implement something for themselves, even if it's as small as 1 hour a week. Just 1 hour where they do something that fills her cup. A bath, a walk, reading a book, meeting a friend, whatever. And within a month, they all become a different person, more patient, more present, actually enjoying their kids and their lives again instead of just surviving it. Because here's the thing nobody tells you. Your kids don't need a martyr. They need a mentally healthy mom. And you can't be mentally healthy if you're constantly sacrificing every single thing that brings you joy or peace or rest. Also, like I told you before, you're modeling for your kids what self-care looks like. If you're a daughter mom, you're teaching her that women's needs matter. If you're a son mom, you're teaching him to respect women's boundaries and needs. So instead of thinking that you're selfish for taking time for yourself, think of it that you're modeling healthy boundaries and self-respect for your kids. Now, here is an actionable step for you. This week, just this week, I want you to take 30 minutes for yourself. It doesn't have to be a spa day, doesn't have to cost money, doesn't have to be something crazy. Just 30 minutes where you do something that makes you feel good. And I want you to do it without apologizing. No, I'm sorry, mommy needs a break. Just say to your kids that mommy's going to read for a bit. I'll be in my room. And watch what happens. I bet your kids will be fine, and you'll feel like a human again. Number 5 is to stop feeling guilty about your kids' emotions. This is a sneaky one because it feels like good parenting to take responsibility for how your kids feel. But it's not. It's actually really unhealthy. If your kid is sad that dad canceled his weekend again, well, it's not your fault. If your kid is angry about the divorce, that's a valid emotion, but it's not your responsibility to fix it. If your kid says that he hates living in this apartment and that he wants the old house back, that hurts to hear, but you don't have to carry guilt for it. You are not responsible for preventing your kids from ever feeling negative emotions. In fact, if you try to do that, you're actually setting them up to fail in life because life is full of disappointment and sadness and anger. They need to learn how to process those emotions, not avoid them. Your job is not to prevent them from feeling bad. Your job is to hold space for their feelings, validate them, and teach them healthy ways to process emotions. So when your kid says, "I'm sad Daddy doesn't live here anymore," instead of saying, "I'm so sorry, it's all my fault," say this, "I can see you're feeling really sad about that. It's okay to feel sad. It's a normal emotion. Do you want to talk about it, or do you need a hug?" See the difference? You're validating without taking ownership of their emotions. I worked with a mom whose daughter was really struggling with the transition between houses. And every time her daughter would cry about it, this mom would fall apart with guilt, saying that she did this to her and that she ruined her life. So we worked on separating her daughter's valid feelings from her own guilt. And once she stopped making her daughter's emotions about her own failure, she was actually able to support her daughter better because she could be the calm, grounded parent her daughter needed instead of spiraling into her own shame. So instead of thinking that your kids are hurting because of you, flip the equation and say that your kids are learning to process difficult emotions and you're here to guide them through it. Number 6 is to stop feeling guilty about wanting a relationship. Oh my God, the judgment single moms get around this is insane. You're either moving on too fast, or your kids should be your only focus, or what kind of example are you setting? Here's my response to that. Shut up. You're allowed to want adult companionship. You're allowed to want romance. You're allowed to want a partner. Being a single mom doesn't mean you took a vow of celibacy and loneliness for the next 18 years. And actually, modeling healthy adult relationships for your kids is a good thing. You want them to see what it looks like when two people respect each other, support each other, and choose each other. They're not going to learn that from you being alone and miserable. You shouldn't just shut down that entire part of your life because you're a mom. Absolutely not. I had a client who met an amazing man about a year after her divorce. And she was so riddled with guilt about it that she almost broke up with him, thinking she couldn't do that because her kids are still adjusting. And I was like, but you're a woman who deserves love, a woman who's a whole person with needs and desires. Her kids are fine, by the way. Actually, they're great because they have a mom who's happy and fulfilled instead of resentful and lonely. All the problems were in her own head and never get outside of it. So instead of thinking that you're selfish for wanting a relationship, think that you deserve love and companionship, and showing your kids what healthy love looks like is valuable. Finally, number 7, the big one that kind of encompasses all the others, and it's to stop feeling guilty about not being perfect. Look, you're not going to get it right all the time. You're going to yell when you shouldn't. You're going to let them watch too much TV sometimes. You're going to serve cereal for dinner. You're going to forget to sign the permission slip. You're going to miss the school event because you had to work. And you know what? That's okay. And you're still a good mom. Perfect moms don't exist. They never did. Even the two-parent households with all the money and all the resources, those moms aren't perfect either. They're just better at hiding it. You're doing the work of two parents on your own. Cut yourself some slack. I think the reason this guilt is so heavy for single moms is because we feel like we have to be perfect to make up for the fact that we're doing it alone. Like we have to prove to everyone, including ourselves, that we're enough, that our kids aren't missing out, that we can do it all. But that's not sustainable, and it's not even healthy. Because when you're trying to be perfect, you're teaching your kids that mistakes are unacceptable. You're teaching them that they have to have it all together all the time. You're teaching them to hide their struggles. But when you mess up and own it, when you say, "I'm sorry I yelled, that wasn't okay. I was overwhelmed, but I shouldn't have taken it on you," you're teaching them accountability. You're teaching them that relationships can handle repair. You're teaching them that being human is okay. So instead of thinking that you have to be perfect to make up for being a single mom, shift your perspective to thinking that you're doing your best, and that's enough. Okay, so let's bring this all together. Look, the guilt you're carrying, it's not serving you. It's not making you a better mom, and it's not protecting your kids. It's just weighing you down and keeping you from being the present, joyful, healthy mom they actually need. So I want you to start practicing something I call guilt spotting. When you feel that familiar wave of guilt wash over you, I want you to pause and ask yourself, is this real guilt because I actually did something wrong that I need to fix? Or is this shame disguised as guilt for things outside my control or things that aren't actually problems? Most of the time, it's the second one. And when you realize that, you get to make a choice. You can keep carrying it or you can set it down. Here's what I know after working with hundreds of single moms is that the ones who heal the fastest and build the best lives aren't the ones who never feel guilt. They're the ones who learn to recognize it, challenge it, and release it. You deserve that freedom. Your kids deserve the version of you that's not weighed down by unnecessary guilt. So start today. Pick one thing from this list and just let it go. Give yourself permission to be human, to be imperfect, to take up space and have needs and make mistakes. You're doing better than you think. I promise you that. If this helped you, share it with other single moms who needs to hear it, and drop a comment telling me which one of these 7 hit you the hardest. I read every single one, and I love hearing from you. And if you want more help with this, check the Surviving to Thriving guide. It's basically a 6-pillar transformation system that's helped hundreds of burned out single mothers reclaim their identity, energy, and hope, and finally feel like themselves again, be better moms for their kids, and create a life that actually feels worth living. I've put all my expertise working with more than 800 single moms for the past 7 years and made it available for everyone to benefit from. Take a look at it below in the description or in the first pinned comment. I'll see you in the next one, Mama. Keep going. You're a superhero.